Hey peeps, welcome to another video. Technically it's day 4 of this project, but I, like an idiot, completely deleted the first 2 clips that I had filmed. So welcome to day 1, sort of making 3 navy dresses. So I am going to be making the Vogue 9345, the Vogue 9327 and the Vogue 9328. I am going to start out by sewing together the skirt panels, and I have got footage of that, I didn't delete that. The reason that I'm going to sew the skirt panels first is because at least 2 of them are definitely going to drop on the bias. I'm not sure about the 9328 because the curve on the bottom of each of the panels is quite small, because there's quite a lot of panels in the skirt, but we shall see. So I need to get the skirt panels sewn up together first so that they can hang on the rack whilst I make the rest of the dresses, and fingers crossed by the time that I'm actually ready to put them onto the bodices, the bias will have done its thing and then I can immediately level them without having to leave them to hang for another week. At least that is my theory. So let's get started.
The first thing that I had to do was separate my patterns that I had previously cut out into their individual parts. So skirts, sleeves and bodices.
Skirts.
Once I'd separated out the skirt pieces, I could then start sewing them together, and this is me we're talking about, so of course I used French seams. You start by sewing the panels wrong sides together at 1/4 of an inch, then you need to trim off all the excess, so you're left with just under 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance.
You've got to love some good French seam spaghetti. Right, now I've got to go and press.
As I've just said, pressing is next, so you want to take your skirt pieces over to the ironing board and press them with the right sides together. You can press the seam allowance to one side first and then press them with the right sides together. I tend to be a little bit lazy and just go straight in to the second step. If you're careful enough, you can get a nice crisp edge. Once everything is pressed, you can then take everything back to the sewing machine to finish the French seam by sewing each seam again at 3/8 of an inch. So I have had a nicely productive evening. It's 8 o'clock now. I've had dinner and I have also got my 3 skirts French seamed together and ready to do their thing on the bias. So I'm going to call it a night now. Hey peeps! Welcome to day 2. So this is why I like to make my skirts ahead of time. This one is actually not doing too many biasy things because the curve on the bottom of these skirt panels was really small. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 skirt panels in this skirt, but these 2, which only had like the front or back on the fold and then the 2 side panels, the bias is doing crazy things. So yeah, this is why this is why I like to make my skirts ahead of time before I do anything else on the dress, so that it can start doing this, and it just means that when the dress is complete, then hopefully it's had enough time to drop on the bias so that I can level it. So having said that, I'm going to move this out of the way so that we can work on some sleeves. So I was trying to decide what I wanted to do today. I think I'm going to start with the sleeves because I have found that when I've been making the bodices and I get those finished and then I have to do the sleeves, and I don't particularly like sewing sleeves. Not that they're difficult, it's just, you know, not my favourite thing. I like making bodices because it's really fun having the flat piece of fabric turn into this 3D thing that's going to fit around your curves. But sleeves just a bit like, meh, something else that I need to do. So I thought this time around I'm going to make all the sleeves first to then make the bodices last, so that I can then attach the sleeves, then attach the bodice to the skirt, put the zips or closure method in, and then hem, and then do it that way. So I've got some interesting sleeves to do for this dress. First things first, I need to turn this into proper bias binding, which means that I need to sew all these strips together and then put them through my bias tape maker, which I showed you in the last vlog with the 9076. Then it's interfacing time for the cuffs, continuous lap time. I think I've done a continuous lap for all of them because otherwise I don't like how they want you to put the sleeves into the cuffs. And then yeah,
French seams. So let's stop waffling and start doing some sewing.
Bias binding is definitely not my favourite thing to make, but I really love the finish that you can achieve using bias binding made from the exact fabric that you're using for the outside of your dress. I also use offcuts and scraps to cut out my bias binding. I have seen the continuous bias binding method, but I don't want to sacrifice a whole fat quarter or whatever size shape to that method when I end up with these kind of lengths of strips from the offcuts of the dress. The little bias tape makers that I use as well are absolutely genius and will be listed in the description down below. Just be careful of your fingers when you're pressing your bias binding through those little doodads.
I have a nice pile of double folded bias tape which I'm going to use to finish off the edges of those sleeve openings. So now that I've got this done, and I used this little doodad, and I will link this, that you can get a pack of 5 of them. I'll link them in the description down below. I love these things. So yeah, now that I've got this done, I'm going to start working on the sleeves, and I think I'm going to start with the 9327. They're the ones that are on top.
First things first, we're going to sew the cuffs. These are very, very deep cuffs on this pattern, and I love how they turned out. Once that's done, I can then put in the continuous lap to the back part of both sleeves, and despite these sleeves being crazy, the continuous lap does work. As I've mentioned, I don't like finishing off a cuff on the underarm seam as the pattern would suggest, so I have put in a continuous lap, and there will be a tutorial listed in the description down below. Once the continuous lap is in and pressed and top stitched and slip stitched into place, I can then move on to finishing off the opening edges of the sleeves with the pre-made bias binding. So I'm stitching it right side to wrong side first to then wrap it around the edge and top stitch it down. Once that's done, I then press it flat. I then press it to the inside of the seam and then I top stitch that down, and that takes up the seam allowance and finishes off both of the sleeve openings nicely. I can then put in the pleats to the shoulder cap, baste the shoulder caps together, baste the bottom edge together, ready to put in the gathering stitches so that I can insert the cuffs.
These are some labour intensive sleeves. The pattern actually calls for you to finish this edge with ribbon. I didn't have anything in my stash that I like the look of. I'm not ruling out going back and doing something like that later, but I just used the bias binding that I made earlier to finish off the edges. So now I need to sew the seam together, this seam, and I have going to of course do it with a French seam. So I'm going to French seam these together, then I need to baste the overlaps into place, and then I can gather up this bottom edge into these really long shaped cuffs. I think this is going to look really cool. I think these cuffs are probably going to end up being a little bit big on me, but I'm not going to adjust the, because again this is kind of like a wearable muslin, although it's I'm pretty sure this one's going to look awesome. I'm going to do the same thing that I usually do, is put the buttons in, buttonholes in, and then put the buttons so that the cuff is snug against my wrist. If it's over sort of 3/4 of an inch, then I'll take it out of the pattern piece. But yeah, the next step for these sleeves is to French seam the underarm seam together. So I'm going to get that done. As I say, then I can work on the rest of the construction. These sleeves are interesting.
One eternity later.
I am glad that I started with these sleeves because they have been an absolute mission, but I think they're going to be pretty epic. So, oh yeah, I have got both of these done. I was planning on doing all 3 pairs of sleeves this evening, but I'm going to stop at these ones because I have reached my end of my energy levels for today. But my first pair of sleevells are done. I shall work on more sleevells tomorrow. We're on technically day 4 of this project. Wow, that took a long time to work out. I am in the process of making the second set of sleeves. I think I showed you the first set of sleeves. These were way complicated, these sleeves, but I'm glad I got those ones done first. So yeah, second set of sleeves, and I am actually filming a how to make a continuous lap tutorial with these, so that will be coming out actually probably before you've seen this video. I'm going to get these ones finished, and then I can just power through the 3rd pair of sleeves because I don't need to film any of the steps for that other than the overall kind of like, this is how I do the thing. It's a bit chilly down here, so I have my giant octopus jumper on. I love this thing. I love this so much. It's nice and snuggly and warm. So anyway, I'm going to stop rabbiting at you and get on with doing some actual sewing.
These sleeves were much more straightforward, as you can tell. I sewed up the underarm seam with a French seam, I put the cuffs together in the usual manner, then put in all the gathering stitches that need to corral the fullness at the top of the sleeve and also the bottom of the sleeve, put that onto the cuff and machine stitched it on. Once it's been machine stitched on, I then press the fullness into the cuff, and then I can slip stitch the folded edge down to finish off the inside of the sleeve nicely.
Welcome to day 5 of the navy dress project. Now, I really wasn't expecting, I was expecting me to be putting this video out today, but they're still in pieces. I have my sleeves, or sleevels. I realised I started calling them sleevels without explaining what sleevels were. So lots of people hate sleeves, or putting in sleeves, so they are sleeves that are evil, so sleevels. I like that. It just makes me giggle. So I've got my sleeves, I've got my skirts, and now I need to make some bodices. And fingers crossed these shouldn't be too lengthy a project to do. The longest one is going to be the shirt dress because there's the most elements in that, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue to get that done today, as well as the other ones. I don't have a long enough zip for the 9372. It does say it takes a 22-inch zip, and I'm going to put one, like hold one up against and see how far down past the waistline that zip will go, because it's got quite a high neckline, and the last time I tried putting in a 22-inch zip to a high neckline I ended up with an inch underneath the waist and I couldn't get in and out of the dress. Nearly swore again then. I've ordered a 26-inch zip, but who knows how long that will take to arrive. I've also ordered some of the bias bindings that I've run out of, including navy. So I'm going to stop waffling at you and get on with sewing some bodices, and I'm going to start with the 9327 because I think that's going to be the simplest to put together. I'm really excited to see how that one comes out.
The first thing that I need to do is mount my viscose to the cotton lawn. I'm using a much floatier fabric than the pattern recommends. To add some body and structure, I am interlining it with cotton lawn. So I pin around the perimeter and then I sew around the perimeter. And I like to sew opposite sides of each bodice piece so that I don't end up with the fabrics getting skewy on me, or skew-if on me. Next up, I need to mark in the dart placement. And once I've marked the dart placement, I then also stitch those within the seam allowance so that the two fabrics act as one when I actually come to sew the darts. Next up, I need to pin all the darts into place, and once I have got that done, I will then sew them. I sew the darts in the usual way, which means I backstitch at the beginning of the dart and sew off of the tip. I can then tie the thread tails into a knot to secure them. I feel that that gives me a nice finish on those darts. Once I've done all of those steps for the front, I then repeat for the back panels, and we are done with our bodice prep. I also had to sew all the darts into the lining fabric. Fun times.
All the darts are sewn. There were a lot of darts. Now I can put the shoulder seams and side seams together, then I can sew the lining to the outer. I completely went off-piste and have sewn the dress, or the bodice, to the skirt. I like it. It's different, but I like it. The sleeves are a bit mad. I mean, it's a bit weird that you've got a dress that's this covered up that's then just like, hello, sleeves, but I do like it. I do like it. But the idea is today that I was supposed to be sewing all the bodices up, wasn't it? And then I was going to make all the dresses the next day, but I got carried away because I've not made this one before, so I was excited. So I think what I'll do is actually stop at this point with this one, and I'm going to move on to the 9328 and get that bodice sewn up, and who knows, maybe even attached to the skirt, so I can try that one on as well, because I'm excited to see how that one comes out as well. Yeah, these sleeves are funky. They're really funky, but I think I like it. I think I like it. Right, moving on.
The 9328 was a slightly simpler bodice. It would have been very simple if I'd followed, well, sort of, if I'd followed the pattern instructions, because they wouldn't have you line it, which I think is mad. So I have marked on my darts and sewn the darts. There's nice Dior darts on the front of this. Then I sewed the centre front seam, I sewed the princess seams on, and I have done the same for the outer and the lining.
It's 7:30, so I am going to call it a night now. I'm not going to work on the shirt dress bodice because I have a lot of interfacing to cut out for that, which I will get done tomorrow, which will be day 6 of this project. But I think I can probably get them finished tomorrow. Maybe not photographed and twirled, but I think I could probably get them finished tomorrow. So that is going to be the goal. Wish me luck. Welcome to day 6 of the navy dress project. I don't think I'm going to do this kind of thing again. I think I'm going to work on one dress at a time going forward. I am going to start working on the bodice of the 9345 today. I am really excited to see how that cat comes out. So I need to get all the interfacing cut out for it first, to then get the pieces interfaced, to then get the bodice sewn up. And it shouldn't take me too long. This is an unlined bodice, so I have to French seam everything, whereas the other two were lined, so I could just sew them. But given that if I'm just lining them, I have to make two things, it's probably just the same amount of processes as French seaming them. So I'm going to stop waffling and get on with some sewing.
These clips are really speeded up because I do have a full sew along for the Vogue 9345 on my channel if you would like to watch it, and I'm hopefully going to put this in the card and the description down below. But it's always satisfying to see sewing go this quickly, if only it was this quick in real life.
Dress number 3 is on its way. I think it's going to be a really lovely dress when I'm finally finished. It's day 7 of the navy dress project. I have no idea why I am having such a struggle with getting these things finished, but fingers crossed, I shall pretzel up. Fingers crossed today I can get the majority of it done. So I need to take the 9327 in at the waist by an inch, which means that I need to unpick the waist seam from the skirt seam, take the bodice in by ½ inch on each side and in the outer and the lining. I also then need to take that ½ inch off of the skirt pieces. I have French seamed the skirt. I'm not going to undo the French seams and kind of try and fiddle with that. I am just going to sew an extra kind of further ¼ inch in, which when you take up both sides will take that ½ inch in. So that's what I'm going to do for that one. Then I can attach the lining to the zip, and then I can attach the waistband of the lining to the waistband of the dress proper, stitch up the back skirt seam underneath the zip. Then it will be time to level the hem, put some bias binding on and hem it, and then put buttonholes into the cuffs and put buttons on. I then need to repeat all of that except for the altering of the size, because the size on the 9328 is pretty good. And then the 9345, which is the one you can see hanging up there, that needs understitching, buttonholes and buttons, hem leveling and hemming. So there is a lot of work to do. I don't know if I'm going to get it all done today. I would like to. I don't think I'm going to get it all done when it's still daylight, because it currently is 2 o'clock. I've been doing other stuff this morning, so yeah, it's 2 o'clock. So I'm definitely not going to get all that finished before the daylight goes, which means that I will be filming 12s for these tomorrow to then put that video out. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing 3 projects like this in one go again. But never mind, it's a learning curve. Like I say, January's for experimentation, so let's get on with some sewing.
In these next clips you can see me doing exactly what I've just said. So sewing the lining to the zipper teeth, sewing the lining down at the waist seam, and sewing up the back skirt seams for the 2 skirts with zips in.
Let's pick some buttons. I only got 6 of these navy shell buttons left, and whilst they're nice, I don't have enough of them for this dress because this dress needs way more than 6. So these might end up going on the cuff of one of the other dresses. So I think what I'm going to use for this shirt dress is coconut shell buttons, and yeah, I really like how they look. I know they're not for everybody, I know it's not everybody's first choice, but I really do like how these look. I only have these, what size are these ones? They're 5/8 of an inch buttons. I am going to use them because I really want to get these dresses finished. Let's tip you up a bit. Yeah, I really want to get these dresses finished, so I am going to use them. If I had them, I would put smaller ones on the cuffs, but I don't have them, so I am just going to use these ones for this dress. So I'm going to need to keep one out for the buttonhole sizing. And then I'm thinking for one of the other dresses I might use these little crystal ones, these little Swarovski crystal ones on the cuffs, because they are very cute and you can't see.
So yeah, they are very, very cute, and I think they might look quite nice up the cuff of a dress. Otherwise I'm going to have to order some more buttons. In fact, I'm probably going to do that anyway, but I am going to use the coconut shell buttons for the shirt dress because I really do like how that looks. So now I need to mark in my buttonhole placement. This is a Simplex and it is an awesome little tool. You can use it for loads of different things, but I particularly use it for marking evenly placed buttonholes. So I'm going to get that done. Once I'd chosen my buttons, I could use them to set the buttonhole length on my machine. Then basically it's an automatic buttonholer. I do prefer to use my presser foot to control the speed of the buttonhole, because if I press the start and stop button, the machine will go at whatever speed I've set it. But if I've set it slightly too fast and an error starts to happen, I then panic and I have to hit the stop button immediately, and it always goes horribly wrong, and then I have stuff to unpick. Whereas if I do it with my presser foot, I have complete control over when it starts and stops, which I much, much prefer. Done.
Welcome to day 8. So today I am going to level the hems, sew the bias binding on, and get these dresses finished. This has been a lot longer than I was expecting this project to take, but never mind, it's going to look awesome when it's done. I'm not sure which one I'm going to start on. I think I might start with the 9328 because I think that one's dropped the least. So I'm going to get it on the mannequin and then have a look and see if the hem has done anything or if I can just sew bias binding to it.
I actually don't think that skirt's dropped at all, so I'm going to just sew the bias binding on, press it under and put it to the side to be hand stitched later. I've changed my mind. I'm going to do this one with the tape measure lying flat rather than on the mannequin, because I couldn't get it to lie, the waist to lie flat on the mannequin, because the mannequin's way too short waisted. I need to make one of those by bootstrap ones. Anyway, let's get on. I do have a whole video on my favourite ways to level a hem. Usually it's on a mannequin with my pinchy device, but as I mentioned, my mannequin is very short-waisted and these dresses didn't fit it in such a way that I was confident that the hem was going to be level to start with, so I could have ended up with a really wavy hem. So I decided to lay it out on the table and measure, as you can see here, which worked really, really well. So once all the hems were levelled, I could then apply the bias binding. I used purple for the Australian Eden Tencel rayon, I used a navy for the crinkle viscose, and I used a warm kind of fawny brown colour for the Naturella Bouquet. Once they had been sewn on, I could then take them over to the ironing board and press them up. And I like to press them so that there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch of the outer fabric showing, and that the binding is then lying nice and flat on the inside. And this is definitely my favourite way to hem a curved skirt.
Okay, now everything is levelled and bound. I need to do a whole ton of hand stitching, which is why I shall be doing that sitting here watching Supernatural. Mum's in the room as well, so the TV should work. The TV only doesn't work when Mum leaves. I've just told her that she needs to remain here for the entirety of the evening. I'm not sure that's going to actually happen.
As I mentioned, many episodes of Supernatural were watched during the hemming of these 3 dresses. It's one of my all-time favourite shows, and I haven't seen the final season as yet, so I am refreshing my brain through all 14 previous seasons and thoroughly enjoying it. I have found that the TV, as mentioned, only works properly when Mum's in the room. When she leaves, it flickers, and that's one of the signs of a haunting, which does worry me slightly. Watching these clips back, I also look a little bit possessed with the way my head's moving at these speeds.
They're done! They are done! I'm so excited. I'm very pleased. I was right, it's dark outside, it's 20 to 6. It did take me all afternoon to get all of those hand finishing bits done, but they're done. So, shall we have a look at the final results? I think we shall. Dress number 1, it's the 9327. This pattern was a present from the very lovely Lorianne when she came over. Wow, it must be 2018 now? Has it been that long? Wow. So yeah, she bought me a whole bunch of patterns. In fact, I think 2 of these are from Lorianne and 1 is from Crystal. I loved this pattern when I saw it. I was a bit dubious about the sleeve options. I do like the sleeves on A, the long straight sleeves with the cuffs. I just know how annoyed I get with immobility of those kinds of sleeves, and I know it's probably me not fitting them correctly and that you should be able to raise your hands above your head with sleeves on and things like that, but I don't know how to do that. So I don't tend to make things with very fitted sleeves just because I prefer the freedom that I get with bigger fuller sleeves like this. The fluttery sleeves I do really like, but I kind of, because this is so high necked, I had in my head that this was kind of more of a wintry style of dress. So I decided to go for the sleeves on view B, which have got these cutouts. I love the cuffs, absolutely love the cuffs. I've gone for 7 buttons on each cuff. I do need to slim the bottom of the cuff down a little bit, but the top of the cuff fits that part of my arm really, really well. I think these are lovely. I really like the kind of fitted cuff with the fitted bodice with then the balloon sleeves coming over the top of it. I'm not a huge fan of the opening. I wanted to try it. I'm glad that I did. I will probably always wear it with a jumper like this underneath of it, which you can just see the little jumper poking out the top there as well, which I'm not sure if I'm completely okay with, but I do think I will always wear it with some kind of something underneath of it, because this to me is more of a kind of autumn winter dress. I am going to redraft the sleeves and just lay the front and the back sleeve pattern over each other and draft it as one big sleeve with no cutout for the next time that I make this, because I am going to make this again. I absolutely love the bodice. I love this high neckline. I love the skirt. It's nice and full without being too full. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this. I haven't added pockets because I've made this dress with a viscose. The fabrics that it suggests: satin, crepe, wool, flannel. I used a viscose, like I say, and I think the way that I got away with doing this bodice in a viscose is that I interlined it with cotton lawn to give it more structure and stability. I've then lined the actual bodice itself with the viscose acetate lining that I get from Sherwood Fabrics. I'm really pleased with how this bodice has come out, and I wanted to use a viscose because I wanted these sleeves to have a lot of drape in them, and I wanted the skirt to have a lot of drape in it as well. So that's how I got around using a much lighter fabric than the pattern suggests. And I've got one finished garment measurement on the back of this envelope, and it is the back length from base of neck. Yep, not helpful, not helpful at all. I didn't finish the edges of my sleeves with trim. I used bias binding that I made from the same fabric. Ideally I would have liked to fully line the sleeves because you can kind of see the inside of them a little bit, and I kind of wish I had fully lined the sleeves, but I didn't have enough fabric to do that. So it was, if I had have done, I would have done, but I didn't have enough of this particular print to do that with. Thankfully that left me enough to make a by hand London and a top, which I have already put a video out for, but I'll put a little card to that up there. It says it's an easy pattern. It says that it's good for hourglass or triangle shapes, which I'm guessing is their version of pear shape, and I'd agree with that because there is a lot of volume at the sleeve, at the sleeve cap here, the shoulders. There's pleats in the top of these sleeves, and because you've got 2 layers of the pleats, they kind of do stick out quite a lot. So I would say that it's really good for accentuating an hourglass figure and then also helping to balance out a pear shape. Yeah. Oh, the 22-inch zipper was totally fine. I was a little bit worried because of the high neck on this dress that it wouldn't go far enough past the waist seam, but it goes about 3 inches, 4 inches past the waist seam, so that works really well. Yeah, I love this. I'm going to make more of them. Like I say, I am going to change the sleeves up. I'm not sure that I would make this with the fluttery sleeves because, as I say, to me, because it's so covered up and so high necked, this kind of just reads as a winter dress. But I'm not ruling out trying it with some kind of spring summery sleeves. But I pretty much think it's always going to be worn as like an autumn winter dress, and like I say, with a variation on one of these skinny tops. This one is from Next, but there's plenty of other t-shirts that you could wear underneath of this. Something from Lily Silk would work really well. The Paola t-shirt without the kind of, with just a binding around the neckline rather than the roll neck on it would work really well. Any long sleeve t-shirt that you feel comfortable wearing under this would be great. And I've got loads of colours to choose from. Can go for the greens or the creams or the darker browns. I really like this bright sort of mustardy coloured with it. I would also wear this with a mustard coloured belt and some mustard coloured boots. Unfortunately I can't get into those boots at the moment, which is why I've got my black ones on. My mustard coloured belt though, I need to put another hole in it because it's too big, and I'm ordering a dark brown belt and a navy belt and also a cream belt, which would work with all of these. I will probably always wear this belted. I prefer that look. You don't have to, but I do prefer that look, which is why in the twirls and the stills you will see that I have a belt on with this dress. I'm really, really pleased with it. Very pleased indeed. I will definitely make this again. Next we have the 932 No, next we have the 9345 because I'm going to wear this jumper with that dress as well. Okay, so next up is the Vogue 9345. I have done a sew along for this dress and I have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them now, and I'm not ruling out making many more because I absolutely love this pattern. I have put on a cuff and continuous lap for the sleeve because I think that the original pattern would just have you leave the ends of these giant sleeves floating free, and I don't know about you, but me, I would get those in everything and they would irritate the crap out of me. So yeah, I have added in the cuff and continuous lap for the bottom of these sleeves. Again, I don't think I'm ever going to make the long straight sleeve just because I don't like how restrictive they are. I have used this pattern as a tie front top, of which I have made 3, 2 of which I still have. I have put the little short sleeves onto one of them and I really like how that looks. The other one is sleeveless. So yeah, I do like how the short sleeves look, and I could possibly see myself making a short sleeve version of this, but again, I would find that really restrictive for the time of year that I could wear it, unless I get mum to knit me some, you know, big sleeved cardigans to go over the top of it. The majority of cardigans I have wouldn't fit over the top of those sleeves without them getting bunchy and annoying, so I do tend to prefer this sleeveless or with the giant sleeves on it. The finished garment measurements on this one, it's the back length from base of neck again, and that's it. It says gabardine flannel crepe ponte knit for the fabric used. I've used a cotton lawn, and then the other ones have all been viscose, or I think one of them is a poly crepe, but that's pressed so well I'm not sure it is polyester because it did really press take a crease well. Again, I have completely ignored the fabric recommendations and just done what I wanted to, and I really like the look. Again, I like how these giant sleeves behave in this really lightweight fabric. This is a crinkle viscose from Stitch Fabrics. As I mentioned, this was a present from Crystal when she was my pattern swap partner. I am so glad that I asked for this one. I absolutely love it. There will be more. There will be many more because I just absolutely really enjoy wearing it. Again, I've got it on with this ready to wear kind of turtleneck long sleeved jumper from Next, which is very skin tight. I really like layering these ones up, especially the longer sleeves ones in the winter, because I cannot get a cardigan over, well, I've got one cardigan that works over these giant sleeves because it has these giant sleeves to start with. It's a crocheted cardigan though, so it doesn't really add any warmth, it's just decorative. It's nice to be able to put layers underneath. This would also work really well with the Lily Silk Carmine cashmere jumper that I got. It's very much this colour, so that would look really nice under this. And then when it gets slightly warmer, I can wear it without the jumper layer underneath as well. So very versatile, love this piece, so glad that I've made it. Now we shall talk about the final one, the 9328. So the final one to show you today is the 9328. Again, this is from L'Oreal. I absolutely fell in, I mean the numbers kind of give it away that these two came out in the same release. I really like this. I think the version C looks very kind of 70s, which is something that I very much enjoy. Version D as well. I have traced out the short and long skirt. I have traced out the sleeves from E and F, and obviously the sleeves from C and D. I haven't traced the sleeves from A and B because again, I am not so much of a fan of the tighter fitted sleeves, especially when they've got a ruffle on the end of them. All three of these patterns have been rated as easy. This one is for a upside down triangle, so your shoulders are broader than your hips, or for a triangle, so pear-shaped, or for an hourglass. The previous shirt dress, sorry I didn't talk about that one, but that was rated for every single body shape, so the upside down triangle, regular triangle, rectangle, or hourglass figure. I do think that you could style this in such a way that it would suit all those different figures for sure. So this one is for broader shoulders, broader hips, or the balance of two with an hourglass. So yeah, I can see that. Again, all of these dresses are very similar in style. Fitted bodice, flared skirt, big sleeves. I do like the sleeves and the cuffs on this one. I've gone for navy buttons on this one because I happen to have 6 navy buttons left, so perfect amount for this dress. I just absolutely love this. The fabric is from Darn Cheap Fabrics in Australia. It's a tencel rayon. I have it in the cream colorway as well back here, which will need lining, so I'm trying to work out what I'm going to do with that one. I do have enough of the navy left to, I'm hoping, make a shirt, but it might be might be more like a top. This is a directional print for this one, so I was going to use it for sew over Eve dresses, but because it's a directional print and I cut mine on the cross grain, it wouldn't have worked. And that was the original place that I saw the cream version of this, was somebody had made an Eve dress out of it, and it looks stunning. In the UK, Croft Mill Fabrics have the cream version still available. They've called it Eden, and I'll list it in the description down below. But the navy version I can't find anywhere else at the moment. Sorry about that. The pattern recommends crepe de chine, rayon challis, lightweight broadcloth. So I have for once actually taken the recommendation from the pattern and made the dress up with the fabric that they suggest, and I think that this suggestion for this particular style is brilliant. I am surprised how much I like the skirt, because the skirt isn't very full. One of the nice things about that is that it didn't drop on the bias, but I do like that there's fullness in the skirt and all the panels, but I do think I might add on, like say the 9327 skirt as something different every now and again. I really like the cutout in the back. I think they're mad asking you to finish this dress off with bias binding around the neckline and the cutout at the back. I fully lined this. I also burritoed the back neckline so that it was all bagged out basically, because I just didn't fancy wrestling bias binding to make sure that the bias binding was lying flat around the circle on the back. The other thing about this that I'm not sure about is the centre front seam. There's no need for this centre front seam. It kind of bugs me that the pattern's broken up as much as it is, and I am going to probably look into buying myself some navy hug snug, which is rayon seam binding, and I'm going to stitch it down over the top of the centre front seam, the princess seams from the arms, there's princess seams from the shoulders in the back, and I'm thinking about doing it over each of the seams in the skirt and then around the waist as well. I'll experiment when the hug snug arrives, but I didn't want to wait because that's got to come from America, so I didn't want to wait for that to do the roundup of all these dresses. But yeah, the next time I make this, and I will make this again, I am going to cut the centre front on a fold, unless there's a particular, like I'm trying to chevron some stripes or something, which could be quite interesting with the layout of the pattern pieces. Yeah, that is a possibility, but for me, with this floral, I kind of wish I had cut this on the fold, but never mind, never mind. I did the thing with these two dresses, the 9327 and the 9328, that I always say not to do, and that is I ploughed straight ahead with precious to me fabric that I couldn't replace. I always say make a wearable muslin or a muslin, and yeah, I didn't do that, but I have made enough Vogue dresses that I tend to know what's going to look good on me and what's not going to look good on me from looking at the pattern, rather than, you know, it's not usually about a fit issue, it's more about style issues. I felt reasonably confident sort of ploughing ahead with these fabrics. I really love the results. I think they're gorgeous. I do like these deeper cuffs into the full sleeve. I can definitely see borrowing these sleeves for other things. As I say, I have traced out the flutter sleeves in both lengths as well, because I can totally see myself making this dress as a summer dress in a lighter colour for the warmer months, although the tan lines are going to be epic. Ask me how I know. I had a hopscotch dress from Trashy Diva that had a square cut out in the back. Yeah, they were some interesting tan lines. I need to bear that in mind if I do decide to make a summer version of this dress, but I mean, not if, when I do decide to make a summer version of this dress. I am over the moon ecstatic with how all three of these have turned out. I did not enjoy the process of making them. I've batch sewed before, and I don't mind batch sewing, especially my scuba dresses, because they're so quick. I don't mind batch cutting and batch sewing those ones up. I love batch cutting because I have to change my room from sewing configuration to cutting configuration. So to me it makes sense for me to do multiple projects cut out so that I then have multiple projects to sew when I sit down to do them. So I'm not going to stop the batch cutting, but batch sewing 3 very different patterns just because they had the same colour thread, I didn't enjoy so much. The way that I've done it, obviously you've just seen, is I sewed the skirts first, then the sleeves, then the bodices, then put them together, then hemmed them, and that was fine. Like, getting all the skirts done is something that I probably would have done ahead of time anyway, but then I should have probably have worked on each bodice, because I ended up with a whole bunch of stuff to do at the end that I'm not a huge fan of, which is like the leveling of the hems. It just, yeah, it dragged on. This is I'm filming on day 9 of this project. As I've mentioned many times throughout, this is not 9 full days of 8 hours of work. I've been doing lots of other things in there as well, but yeah, I think it's it's definitely not something that I will do again, especially for a making of video. I will do a one and done kind of thing, but I'm very pleased, very pleased that I've got these done. These are all fabrics from the Pirate Capsule collection, which is 2 years old now, and I'm working my way through it. This is basically kind of up to here what remains of it, and then we've got the Savannah collection in there as well. The nice thing is that the Savannah and the Pirate Capsule collection all kind of go in together, as does the Cobra Corsage. I think the ones that aren't going to go in are the Roses collection, which is just there, and then also all the Lemon collection, which is up there. The Roses and the Lemons don't quite work with the other prints. Oh, and the Anaconda Antithesis. Those three are definitely not going to tie in with these colours, but the overall kind of Pirate Capsule collection, and again there is a video for that, I will have linked it in the cards and down in the description as well. I think all of these like little mini collections all work really well in together and will interchange really nicely. All in all, really happy with the outcome. Didn't enjoy the process, won't do that again. Have learnt my lesson. Now I've got to edit all of this together and see how, yeah, there's over an hour of footage with everything sped up, so it's going to be an interesting one. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey of making these dresses. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Do you have a favourite? Which one would you wear most? Are there any that I have inspired you to buy and think you will make yourself? Because I would be really interested to hear what you guys think. And yes, I have styled them all with belts. I don't need to wear belts with them, but I just prefer wearing belts with them. I feel I just like them. I like how they look. I like the finish that they give to the outfit. I like I can match my shoes with them. I am a matchy kind of girl, so yes, I will probably always wear all of these with belts. Anyway, on that note, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!